you have battle type situations where you have people who actually are responsible for taking other people's lives. And if they're responsible for killing people, that's a big moral dilemma. My name is Chaplain Major Elie Estrin. I'm in the United States Air Force Reserve, and I'm currently attached to the 6th Air Refueling Wing at MacDill Air Force Base, Tampa, Florida. So a chaplain in the Air Force has 3 general roles. The first one is religious accommodation, and that's the one that I think most people are aware of. Obviously with regards to prayers or last rites, but that's the more simplistic elements of it. More detailed is to be able to allow for the free exercise of religion, and that's actually the legal right of having a chaplain, is because of the fact that we are the officers of and for a free exercise of religion. So that's both with regards to the Jews on my base as well as with regards to anybody, and that I don't provide services for somebody who is not my religion, but I will assist them to be able to get to those resources that they need to be able to serve God in their particular fashion. So that's number one, religious accommodation. The second one is counseling. A tremendous amount of what we do is counseling, and the difference between us and a psychiatrist or psychologist in the military is that we have 100% confidentiality. So that's 100% confidentiality. So when somebody comes to speak to a chaplain, they know that it's not going to go to their boss, it's not going to go to their commander, it's going to stay with us, and we work with them to be able to resolve the situation, whatever it is. And the third element is advising command. Commanders have a tremendous amount of power, and they're balanced by 2 different sides. On one hand, they have what we call the JAG, or the judge advocate, and on the other, which is the legal side of things. They've got the judge advocate on one side, which is the legal side of what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And on the other side, they've got the chaplain. The chaplain is there to represent the ethical side of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So our job in unique circumstances is to present that to commanders and to tell them what is right and what might be allowed legally, but ethically would not be correct. Judaism looks at war as a necessary method in certain circumstances. The responsibility to be able to protect yourself, protect your own life, protect your own country is an absolute, to the extent that one would even abrogate Shabbat in order to be able to protect yourself. So the concept of a military is not against Judaism at all. The concept of killing people within war is not against Judaism at all. Of course, at the exact same time, there are ethical ways of doing so. And what I find is fascinating is that the world has come to a greater appreciation of that way of fighting an ethical war, while at the same time realizing that war is not something that we want, but is something that we need to do in certain circumstances. The laws of how that's done are quite complex, but what we try to teach people is the concept that the Talmud teaches, that when someone wants to kill us, it's our responsibility to get up and, if necessary, kill that person first. And that is a moral responsibility. And that protects lives, because when you eliminate a murderer, you're able to safeguard other people's lives. And that's very much what the United States military tries to do in the vast majority of cases. So the military realizes that when you have a human being that you're sending either into battle or you're putting them into the most extreme stress to be able to accomplish the mission, the best way that they're able to accomplish that is through a complete human experience. So the person has to be obviously physically fit, but they also need to be spiritually fit. They also have to have an internal system that drives them every single day. And that's actually part of a complete assessment that airmen in the Air Force need to do every single year. They need to consider themselves and see, am I spiritually fit? So chaplains bring that to them. Chaplains enlighten them with regards to their own personal goals, with regards to their own personal sense of spirituality and purpose, because that's really essentially what it gets down to, is the sense of purpose that drives a person to be able to decide that they want to sacrifice, that they want to give everything they possibly can to the country. If a person does not have a sense of purpose, then they eventually start suffering from morale loss. They're not nearly motivated to be able to do the things that the military asks them to do. And as a result of all those things, they're not going to be able to accomplish the mission. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, of course, that's something that really hits people down low if they don't have a reason why they're fighting, if they don't have a reason why they're pulling that trigger or dropping that bomb. And so they need to be able to speak to somebody who understands their language and is involved in that process as well. Now, as chaplains, of course, we are non-combatants. We do not train to shoot. We do not train to fight militarily at all. But we are trained to understand their world and to respond to the experiences that they're going to be able to give them the ability to be able to continue to be able to fight for this country. When someone has a belief, they have something to lean on and to aim at when they are in crisis. If a person doesn't believe in anything, then it's all just a matter of luck, or it's just a matter of or bad luck. It's just, this is what happens to you. And so as a result of that, the resilient quality within a person is I would suggest is much lower. And this is a personal subject, because from a very personal perspective, when my wife and I were going through the possible loss of our son, we had to lean on faith. And as a result of our entire experience, we see the value that it brings in terms of giving us the ability to deal with even the most difficult and extremely difficult situations. When I was in officer training school, one of our teachers was asking all of us what our responsibilities would be in the Air Force. And when I said that I'm going to be a chaplain, his response to me is, "Man, that's really difficult." And I was surprised, and I asked him why. And he said, because you're going to see the worst of humanity, the lowest that people can possibly be, and your job is to try to lift them up. On the one hand, that is correct. I have seen things and heard things from people that are absolutely tragic. But on the other hand, there's something very powerful in that. When you have the responsibility and the opportunity to lift somebody out of those spaces, that's something that I treasure. What drives us is a sense of duty. There's a sense of mission. You know that you're responsible for something and that people are depending on you. And you also know that you are representing Judaism to the entirety of the military. The U.S. military has about 1.5 million, I think is the number nowadays. And many of those people are not going to see Jewish service members or observant Jews. And when they see somebody like me, I know that they're going to be judging Orthodox Jews based on the way that I behave. And I know that's true of my fellow chaplains. And that sense of duty and that sense of realizing that I need to do my very best is what drives our chaplains to take big sacrifices. And that also drives their families, because it's you might even say more difficult for their families not having their husbands and not having their fathers around for a significant amount of time. So they're also very much part of the mission. They're also very much part of the feeling of duty to others. So there's several lessons that you can take from being in the military to Judaism. Number one is the concept that there is a commander and that there is a mission and that the mission has to be accomplished. That idea of being connected to something that's greater than oneself is a very deep idea, and it's a very motivating idea, because you know that what you're doing is not just something for yourself, it's something for much bigger than yourself. And as a result of that, you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to push yourself beyond your limits. And that's, of course, how soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, Coast Guardsmen, that's how they're able to accomplish what they do, because of the fact that they are connected to a mission that's greater than themselves. So that's true about Judaism in general. And besides that, there's the concept of self-sacrifice, the idea that I, as an individual, am part of something beyond myself, and so therefore I'm going to push myself beyond myself. And that self-sacrifice is something that represents, of course, how the Jewish people have existed and continue to exist. We do so based on the self-sacrifice of the previous generations, and they're the ones who brought us here. So our appreciation for those who gave their all in the military is similar to our appreciation for those who gave their all throughout the generations in Judaism. But that ideal of self-sacrifice, that it's not about me, it's about something much bigger than myself, is very much an essential concept in the military.